This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our new newsletter, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed, previously known as the Forefront Daily Headlines email. I know a lot of our listeners are already subscribers, but if you haven't yet signed up, you're missing out. While this podcast and its accompanying newsletter hit the 10 most important industry news stories every day, our new newsfeed newsletter gets all the rest of the headlines, with an average of 50 stories every day organized by state. Become a fully rounded cannabis news consumer by opening up mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed and subscribing to the newsfeed newsletter. That's mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, June 5th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 261 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day swings us down under to the other side of the globe to New Zealand, where doctors are now able to freely prescribe CBD medical marijuana products to patients just as they do any other pharmaceutical drug. The new change in policy was brought about by Associate Health Minister Peter Dunn and will go into effect in the next couple of months. Currently, patients seeking recommendations for medical marijuana are required to get special clearance from the health ministry, so this new change in policy should go a long way in boosting the number of sick people able to find relief using CBD medicines. Coming back around to the Northern Hemisphere, we look to Canada, where the National Post has a good story up about the number of arrests made in that nation of people for marijuana possession, even as the federal government works towards enacting full-blown adult use legalization next summer. According to statistics released by the government, between October of 2015, when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took office, and April of 2017, at least 15,000 people were arrested in the country for possessing small amounts of marijuana, with around 7,000 of those people aged 25 years and younger. The Post is reporting that both those numbers likely undercount the total figure by a wide margin for a number of reasons. This is a good story to click over for the full read. The NFL Players Association is taking a new tack in their fight to get the National Football League to loosen its restrictions on the use of medical marijuana by engaging with the families of NFL players to talk about how they are affected by the use of opioid-based pain medication by the players they know as their husbands and fathers. In an interview on SiriusXM Radio late last week, George Atala, an executive with the Players Association, said of medical marijuana use by players, quote, "We believe that it's the result of players trying to deal with managing pain on their own as opposed to going through a medical professional. If that's the case, we really need to take a hard look at what's causing them to self-medicate, how we can take better care of players in the locker room, and how we can incorporate, frankly, all the families of players into this solution." Unquote. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, our new newsletter, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed was previously known as the Forefront Daily Headlines email newsletter. I was able to work something out with my friends over at Forefront to take over the newsletter after they announced its closing and count it as somewhat of a homecoming, as I was actually the one to conceive of and design the newsletter when I worked at Forefront a couple of years back. I know how valuable well-curated news is and designed the newsletter, now known as the MJ Today Media Newsfeed, to be easy to consume and visually filter. Each day's pile of 50 or so industry headlines are organized by state, which lets you hone right in on the news that matters most to you. Subscribe to the MJ Today Media Newsfeed today, if you haven't yet already, by opening up mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. That's mjtodaymedia.com/newsfeed. All right, time for the blitz. The state of Montana is preparing itself for the July 1st launch of their medical marijuana program, which will include a sales tax that, as in every other legal marijuana state, will be paid almost entirely with using cash. The state will tax medical marijuana at a rate of 4% starting on July 1st of this year and running through the end of June of next, upon which time it will fall to 2%. Right now, the state said their biggest challenge is the unique requirement of handling the expected influx of cash from industry taxpayers. HelloMD, an online medical marijuana doctor referral service based in California, just announced their raise of over $1 million in venture funding through the crowdfunding site Seed Invest, which allows startups to raise money from both accredited and non-accredited investors. July 1st marks the start date for Iowa's new medical marijuana program, though expectations in terms of patients' ability to access medicine are fairly low, considering that medical marijuana products won't be available for in-state patients until at least December of 2018. State lawmakers in Delaware have one more month left on this year's legislative calendar to work on the passage of proposed bills, and there are a couple of marijuana-related measures still in the works, with one bill that would set up a commercial marijuana market similar to Colorado. That bill, HB 110, was successfully passed out of committee in the State House last month and awaits a final vote by the chamber at large. We turn to Nevada, where on Friday, the state Senate tossed out two proposed marijuana bills that had been vetoed earlier in the week by Governor Brian Sandoval, killing the chances of the vetoes being overridden. One of the bills, Senate Bill 374, would have allowed healthcare workers and massage therapists to use marijuana topicals on their clients, while another, Senate Bill 419, would have set up a medical marijuana apprenticeship program. This is a good one to click over for the full read. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. The New York Times has a great piece up about a movement among a group of ethnic Hmong families living in California to move to the mountains to grow legal marijuana. The story pitches the embrace of marijuana cultivation as being similar to the poppy plants Hmong farmers were known to excel at growing in mountainous Laos. Open this one up for the full dive in. And finally for today, we have another one of those stories that shows how the world could work when laws are written to be more sensible. In Oregon, a man was recently pulled over by police with 10 marijuana plants in his car. After being told that he exceeded the number of allowable plants by 6, he was allowed to pick his best 4 to keep and had the rest confiscated. Now, I'm not a big fan of police taking your marijuana plants, but considering how that story would resolve in a prohibition state, getting to drive away with 40% of your plant count and a ticket after a run-in with police is a pretty nice place to be. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, the MJ Today Media Newsfeed, and to all of our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.